Have you ever wondered what happened asterisk after asterisk the dinosaurs? After that catastrophic day, 66 million years ago, when a 6-mile-wide asteroid slammed into our planet, the story doesn't end there. In fact, that's where our story begins. Imagine a world silenced, the roars of the great lizards are gone, replaced by the whisper of wind across a desolate landscape. The sky is a perpetual twilight, choked with dust and ash, blocking the sun's warmth. The air is cold, the ground is scorched, and for a time, it must have seemed like the end of everything. For the dinosaurs, they had ruled for 150 million years, but in a geologic blink of an eye, their reign was over. The Earth was a ghost planet, scarred and waiting. But even in this apocalyptic scene, there were survivors. Tucked away in burrows, hidden in the shadows, were tiny, furtive creatures. Not lizards, not giants, but small, warm-blooded mammals. Think of something like a shrew or a rodent, no bigger than a rat. They had lived their entire existence under the feet of giants, but their small size, their ability to burrow, and their adaptable diet became their superpower. While the dinosaurs starved or froze, these little mammals found just enough to get by insects, seeds, roots, whatever they could scavenge from the wreckage of the old world. They were the inheritors of a broken planet. For thousands of years, the world healed. The dust in the atmosphere slowly settled. The rains came, washing the soot from the skies and the poison from the soil. Sunlight, tentative at first, began to reach the surface once more. And with light came life. Hardy ferns, the first pioneers, poked through the ash. Their spores were everywhere, just waiting for this chance. They carpeted the land in a sea of green, stabilizing the soil and creating the first new ecosystems. The silence was broken, not by roars, but by the rustle of leaves and the pitter-patter of tiny feet. This new world, this Paleocene epoch, was a blank slate. The top jobs in the food chain were all vacant, and our mammalian ancestors were ready to apply. Free from the constant threat of being stomped on or eaten by a T-Rex, they began to experiment. They diversified. They exploded in an evolutionary gold rush. They started small, but with no large predators to keep them in check, they began to grow. Within just a few million years, a heartbeat in geological time, mammals went from being mouse-sized scavengers to creatures the size of a modern-day dog or even a small bear. Some, like Pantalumda, others became the new predators. They were discovering the possibilities of a world that was suddenly all theirs. The geography of the Earth was also changing. The supercontinent of Pangaea had long since broken apart. But the continents were still on the move, drifting towards the positions we recognize today. This continental drift created new environments, isolated populations, and drove evolution in fascinating new directions. Mountains rose, creating rain shadows and diverse climates. New oceans formed, separating species and allowing them to evolve in unique ways on their own isolated landmasses. Australia, for example, broke away, and its mammals, the marsupials, embarked on a completely different evolutionary path. South America became an island continent for a time, leading to the evolution of bizarre and wonderful creatures found nowhere else. As the forests returned, becoming lusher and more complex than before, some mammals saw an opportunity. They took to the trees. This move into the branches was a game changer. It required a new set of skills, grasping hands and feet, a good sense of balance, and, crucially, stereoscopic vision. Having two eyes facing forward allows for depth perception, which is pretty important when you're leaping from branch to branch. You don't want to misjudge that distance. And it's in this treetop laboratory that our own story gets a major boost. These early tree dwellers were the first primates. They weren't monkeys or apes yet, more like the lemurs of today. They were agile, intelligent, and their brains were being rewired by the complex, three-dimensional world of the canopy. Finding fruit, avoiding predators, and navigating the complex social dynamics of a primate group all required a bigger, smarter brain. Meanwhile, down on the ground, other mammalian dynasties were rising. The age of giant terror birds, huge, flightless, carnivorous birds came and went. They were eventually outcompeted by new mammalian predators, the ancestors of cats and dogs. The plains were filled with the ancestors of horses, rhinos, and elephants. These grazers and browsers grew larger and larger, engaging in an evolutionary arms race with the carnivores that hunted them. Faster prey led to faster predators. Smarter herbivores led to smarter hunters. The entire ecosystem became a dynamic engine of evolution, pushing life toward greater complexity and intelligence. The climate continued to change. The warm greenhouse world of the early Cenozoic era began to cool. Ice caps formed at the poles, and seasons became more pronounced. This forced animals to adapt or die. Grasslands spread across the globe, creating a whole new habitat. This favored herd animals and fast runners. For our primate ancestors, the cooling and drying of the climate meant the forests began to shrink. Patches of savanna, open grassland, started to appear between the trees. This was another pivotal moment. For some primates, the temptation of the open ground was too great to ignore. They began to venture out of the trees, perhaps to find food or to travel between forest patches. This was a risky move. The savanna was full of new dangers, but it also held new opportunities. And adapting to this new environment would set one group of primates on a path that would change the world forever. Learning to stand on 2 feet, to walk upright, was a critical step. It freed the hands. Hands that were no longer needed for walking could now be used for other things, to carry food, to hold babies, and eventually to make and use tools. This feedback loop freed hands, tool use. A diet richer in protein from scavenging, meat fueled the growth of one organ in particular, the brain. From the ashes of the dinosaurs' world through 66 million years of adaptation, struggle, and sheer luck, a new kind of intelligence was born. The tiny shrew-like creature that hid from the dinosaurs had given rise to a descendant that could look up at the stars and wonder about its place in the universe. The story of Earth's recovery is not just a story of geology and biology. It's the epic prologue to our own existence. It's the story of how, from utter catastrophe, life didn't just survive, evolved to become more complex, more intelligent, and more creative than ever before. It's our story. Imagine a world sculpted by ice and fire, a planet entering a new chapter. As the great ice sheets retreated, the Earth breathed anew. This was the age of giants. Mighty mammoths, with their curving tusks and shaggy coats, roamed vast grassy plains. Saber-toothed cats, predators of immense power, stalked their prey with silent, deadly grace. The rhythm of life was primal, a powerful and steady beat echoing across continents. The world was dominated by immense strength and instinct. But amidst this grand spectacle of nature, a subtle yet profound change was underway. It wasn't a shift in the climate or the rise of a new, colossal beast. Deep within the intricate web of life, a new kind of spark was igniting. This was not a spark of brute force, but of consciousness. From the ancient dust of the earth and the deep-seated pulse of instinct, something incredible began to stir. Awareness? A new form of life was beginning to look at the world, not just as a place to survive, but as a place to understand. This was the quiet dawn of humankind. Hands that once foraged were now beginning to shape the world around them. Fingers closed around stones and branches, not just as objects, but as extensions of as tools. A profound shift was happening. Minds that were once guided solely by instinct began to flicker with curiosity. They looked up at the stars and wondered. They saw their reflections in the water and questioned. In that pivotal moment, when the first question was formed, the entire story of life on our planet took its most dramatic and fascinating turn. The age of colossal mammals, with all its raw power, was beginning to yield to something far more transformative. It was the awakening of the human mind. The era of pure instinct was giving way to an era of thought, creativity, and boundless potential. This wasn't just another chapter in Earth's history. It was the beginning of our story. The story of how a creature of intellect, not just strength, would come to shape the future of the world. Imagine a world reborn from the ashes of the dinosaurs. The great reptiles, rulers for millions of years, are gone. In their place, a new world of wonders has bloomed. Life, ever resilient, has painted the planet with a fresh palette of extraordinary creatures. Picture this: vast grassy plains where towering shaggy mammoths shake the ground with every step. In the shadows, swift, powerful, saber-toothed cats, with fangs like daggers, hunt with silent precision. Forests are filled with giant sloths moving in slow motion, and skies are dotted with birds of incredible size and color. This is the Cenozoic era, the age of mammals. A world both strange and magnificent, teetering on the cusp of a revolutionary change. And amidst this breathtaking diversity, something truly unprecedented is beginning to stir. It's not the strongest, not the fastest, not the biggest creature that will inherit the Earth. It's something else entirely. In the sun-drenched heart of the African savanna, beneath vast golden skies that stretch to an endless horizon, a new kind of being is taking its very first uncertain steps. They appear fragile, almost insignificant compared to the megafauna around them. They are small, upright creatures, a design choice that frees their hands for a destiny they cannot yet comprehend. Their eyes are different too. They don't just see the world around them, the predators, the food, the shelter. They look asterisk into asterisk it, with a spark of burgeoning curiosity, a flicker of something we would come to call intellect. This is the dawn of humanity. These are our earliest ancestors, Homo habilis, the handy man. Their hands, no longer needed for walking, become instruments of creation. They pick up a rock and another. They strike them together, not by accident, but with intention. Chips fly. An edge is formed. It's a simple tool, a crude chopper. But it is more than just a sharpened stone. It is a thought made real. It's the first line of a new story being written on the face of the planet. With this tool, they can butcher carcasses left by larger predators, accessing nutrient-rich marrow and meat that fuels the growth of their most precious asset, their brain. Every tool they create is a leap forward, a testament to their growing ability to solve problems and manipulate their environment. Then comes an even greater leap. A storm rages, a lightning strike ignites a dead tree, and a terrifying dancing light appears. Other animals flee from the destructive heat, but these early humans, driven by that same insatiable curiosity approach, they feel its warmth. They see how it pushes back the darkness and keeps predators at bay. Fire, for so long an agent of terror, it now becomes their greatest ally. They learn to capture it, to keep it alive, and eventually to create it at will. This is a monumental turning point. Fire provides not just physical warmth, but a social hearth. Around the crackling flames, they gather. The night is no longer a time of fear, but a time for community. They share food, they find safety in numbers, and in the flickering firelight, the first bonds of society are forged. From Homo habilis, a new, more advanced hominid evolves. Homo erectus, the upright man, taller, stronger, and with a significantly larger brain. Homo erectus is a true pioneer. Fueled by the energy from a richer diet and protected by the power of fire and better tools, they do something no creature has ever done before. They walk out of Africa, driven by changing climates, the pursuit of migrating herds. Or perhaps just that innate curiosity, they begin to spread across the globe. Over thousands of years, these small bands of hunter-gatherers populate Asia and Europe. They adapt to new landscapes, from dense forests to frozen tundras. Every footprint they leave in the dust of a new continent is a testament to their incredible resilience and ingenuity. They are the first true global citizens. Imagine their world. A life of constant movement, following the seasons and the animals. They learn the rhythm of the land. They know which plants are safe to eat, where to find water, and how to read the tracks of their prey. Hunting is a collaborative effort, requiring communication, strategy, and immense courage. A mammoth hunt is an epic undertaking, a life-or-death ballet between a dozen small hunters and a beast the size of a house. But success means survival for the whole clan. It means food, hides for warmth, and bones for tools and shelters. These are not just hunts. They are complex social events that strengthen their bonds and pass critical skills from one generation to the next. And in the quiet moments around the communal fire, something magical happens. They communicate, not just with grunts and gestures to warn of danger, but with something more. The foundations of language are being laid. They share knowledge, coordinate plans, and perhaps begin to share stories. They point to the stars, perhaps grunting a name for a familiar pattern. They recount the day's hunt, exaggerating the size of the beast, the thrill of the chase. In these shared moments, culture is born. For the very first time on this planet, there are thinkers. There are beings who can remember the past, analyze the present, and dream of tomorrow. They are not just surviving from one day to the next. They are building a collective memory, a shared identity. This journey is not just a story of physical evolution, of bigger brains and better tools. It's the story of the birth of awareness itself. Think about it. Every discovery, every spark of a new idea, every act of cooperation was a building block. The decision to share food instead of hoarding it, The patience to teach a child how to nap a stone, the courage to face down a cave bear to protect the clan. These are the moments that define the dawn of humanity. It was a slow, arduous process unfolding over hundreds of thousands of years. There were dead ends, failures, and countless moments of struggle we can only imagine. But through it all, the flame of consciousness once lit refused to go out. This was not just the rise of a new species, it was the moment Earth itself became. Through the eyes of these early humans, the universe began to look back at itself. The story of our planet was no longer just about geology and biology. It was now also about ideas, about dreams, about community, and about the endless, unyielding quest for knowledge. The footprint left in the ancient dust was not just a mark of passage, it was a promise of a future where these fragile beings would one day build cities, write symphonies, and walk on the moon. This was the true dawn, the dawn of us. Thank you so much for joining us on this incredible journey back to the very beginning of our story. If you found this as fascinating as we did, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more explorations into the epic history of humanity. Don't forget to ring the notification bell so you never miss an episode. We'll see you next time.